Hello everyone and welcome back to another math video. Today we're going to be looking at the slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines. So if they give you an equation, how do you know whether they're parallel or how do you know if they're perpendicular? Just a reminder, this is the full lesson version, so we're going to go step by step with a bunch of examples. If you want the short version where we just cover the main ideas, I will link that in the description below. Before attempting this lesson, you should know about negative reciprocals, slope-intercept form, and the slope formula. If you want refreshers on any of those, I will link them in the description. All right, so real quick here. We said that slope is a measure of steepness, okay, or the tilt of the line. So these on the left side are parallel. Parallel means that they never hit each other, okay? And so they have the same slope, right? And that makes sense. They have the same tilt, okay, the same steepness because they never hit each other. These are perpendicular, and perpendicular means that they hit each other in sort of an X shape or a plus shape. They form right angles is the fancy way, okay? Perpendicular, they have negative reciprocals. Okay, and again, we've already covered negative reciprocals in that previous video, so hopefully we are familiar with that terminology. So let's see how it works. Here we go. It says line P has a slope of negative 7/4. Line Q is parallel to line P. What is the slope of line Q? All right, there are a lot of letters there. Let's start with, there are two lines, right? There's line P and there's line Q. And they tell us that they are parallel to each other. They're parallel. Okay? So, and they tell us that line P has a slope, remember M is slope, of negative 7/4. And remember, they're parallel, right? So parallel means that they have to have the same slope, which means that the slope of line Q is also negative 7/4, and that's my answer, because it says what is the slope of line Q. Let's look at this second problem. We've got line C, and we have line D. This line C has a slope of negative 4/5. They told us they are perpendicular, which means that we need to use the negative reciprocal. Negative reciprocal. So, that E is so ugly. Let me fix it real quick. Okay. Negative reciprocal. All right, so the negative reciprocal of negative 4/5, we flip it and opposite it, so that becomes positive 5/4, and that's our answer. All right. All right, here's our cool clock for today, which means that it's time for you to practice what you just learned. Go ahead and pause the video and try these two problems on your own. And when you're ready, you can unpause the video and we'll check your answers. Okay, now that you've had time to work these problems, let's check your solutions. All right, for this first problem, we have two lines and they have the same slope, which means that they are parallel. For the second problem, they are not the same slope, so they're not parallel. They are not negative reciprocals, so they're not perpendicular. These are neither. All right, for this one, we should already know about slope-intercept form. So this is in slope-intercept form. We should be able to look at this and say, oh, the slope is negative 3/4. And that's, what is this? Line F. This is line F. Then we've got line G, and we know that they are perpendicular. So we need the negative reciprocal. So the negative reciprocal of negative 3/4 would be 4/3. Final answer. All right, here's our cool clock for today, which means that it's time for you to practice. Go ahead and try these two problems on your own, and when you're ready, you can unpause the video and we'll check your answers. Okay, now that you've had time to work these problems, let's check your solutions. For the first problem, they're parallel, so they have to have the same slope, so you should have gotten 9/7. Question 2 is a little bit of a tricky one. We need to realize that the slope of line A is -1, right? Because there's an invisible -1 here. And the slope of line B, there's an invisible 1 here. And these are actually negative reciprocals, right? Because if you put it over 1 and you flip it in opposite, you get positive 1/1. So these are actually perpendicular lines. For this problem, okay, they give us a pair of points. So for E, they don't tell us what the slope is, right? But they do tell us 2 points, 1, 5, and 8, 8. And again, we should be familiar with the slope formula, so we can put those numbers into the slope formula. And when we do that, we get 3/7. So we know that the slope of line E is 3/7 because we just found it, okay? And they tell us line F, they give us coordinates as well. So let's do the slope formula again. So we would do 3 minus 6 over 2 minus 9, which gives us -3 over -7, which is 3/7. So you look at these are the same. So they are parallel lines, right? So if they give you points, you need to plug it into the slope formula. All right, it's time for you to practice what you just learned. Go ahead and pause the video, try these two problems on your own, and when you're ready, you can unpause the video and we'll check your answers. Okay, now that you've had time to work these problems, let's check your solutions. For the first problem, you should have calculated the slope using the slope formula, got -3/5. They are parallel lines, which means that they have the same slope. So V would have a slope of 3/5, or -3/5. And for the second problem, should have calculated the slope. You got -3/5, and they are perpendicular, so we should have done the negative reciprocal to get 5/3 positive. Final answer. All right, that's it for today. I hope you all have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.